Hi guys, and welcome to a new series called Minecraft Builder's Guide. In this episode we're going to be going over how to build a village in Minecraft. Now I'm doing this in 1.14, which means I haven't got any mods, I haven't got replay mod to do the time, so I'm using a second account for this. But it should be pretty good, so do let me know what you think of the format. There's nothing I can do about the bottom bar either, where it's tickering with the actual chat box. It's the only way for me to actually capture it because I'm doing it on the same PC. But basically, if you're going to be building a village in Minecraft, first thing obviously you want to do is find a nice open area and make a clearing. In this case, I actually found a forest and I actually cut into it. And then you can just see me making a couple base shapes using coloured wool. I've been using coloured wool for ages. Obviously, you don't have to actually do this, but this just gives you a rough idea of the shapes of the buildings and the size of the buildings without actually having to place down a lot of blocks. They can kind of get a feel for the entire village. So what I've done is I've got one main building, which is going to be like the lord or whoever's in charge of the village, and then I've got another smaller building as well. Actually, I've got two smaller buildings. I've got one of them that's going to just be at a slight angle, and the other one's actually going to be at a completely 45-degree angle, and this is because I wanted to have quite a lot of variation. I also wanted to try out a couple different styles with this, like using a lot of the more angled things. So like normal with houses, I'm just building up the frame, just using the new, stripped kind of wood that we've actually got, and then putting in a base layer of cobblestone, and then building up with some white, just not white wool to start off with. I do some more variation later on, and then just getting the structure in. So with most houses, I know you guys have probably done a lot of houses before, but this is just the way that I do it. I usually try to create a couple different peaks within each of the houses, and have the actual like a dominant roof going across. So in this case, the kind of bits on the two sides are the dominant roof, and then I've got these kind of not dominant kind of roofs on there just to kind of like tie it in. It just always works a lot better. Now, of course, because we've got such these cool like campfires now in 1.14, I wanted to like incorporate all of these kind of like fireplaces, and some of them I've actually put the hay block underneath because then it gives even more smoke. And that actually looks really, really cool. I'm really happy with how those go. So fireplaces are one of the things I really wanted to do. It does mean that when you actually get over to the fireplace, you can't just have a single block. You have to kind of, make it almost like a cross shape where you can actually let those smoke particles come through. So you can see me just adding in extra bits of detail. So I've got the kind of cobblestone as a base, then I've got this kind of white layer, and you can see me now adding in variation like concrete powder, white concrete powder, and also diorite. I really like the new diorite in the texture. It really mixes in well. If you're going to be transitioning from, say, cobblestone to like a white level or layer, you can actually use it to mix in there because it's kind of like this half and half, especially with the actual texture of it, with it being white. For the roof, I went with some nice brick. I'm actually really liking like brick roofs at the minute. I don't know why, but it seems to be my favourite block that I've been using. And it just looks really good. So you can see me just putting in and just joining up everything, just using that kind of base that we've made out of the logs and actually joining those together. And I usually do this. It always seems to just work its way out. It's always been quite good. But you can just see me messing around right in the back, only just about to see me, messing around with the actual fireplace, the chimney, to get that to work. Because I knew that I had to get that to actually fit in with the roof pattern. So there we go, just putting in the rest of them. So yeah, materials that I've actually used at the bottom is cobblestone. I've then variated that with just normal stone and also andesite. And then I think there's a couple of blocks of mossy stone. I've not tried to use a lot of mossy stone, only in the places where I think the water would collect and where you would get actually moss growing on it. And then the upper layer, I've actually got, white wool as my base, so that's the main material I've actually used. Then I've used the white concrete powder and also diorite. So I think these mix really nicely together to give it kind of a bit of texture. I didn't actually use the white concrete because I always find it looks really, really smooth, though it could look really nice if you had, say, for example, a nice town and you wanted a building that looks really well done. So now I'm just adding in extra bits of details into this, and again, using those lanterns to make those kind of pillars at the fronts for the entrance of this house, and then just adding in extra bits of detail using fence, and also putting on this nice front window as well. I kind of messed around quite a bit with like different designs with this one, because whenever you're doing any sort of angled buildings or a new village, I do recommend that you have one straight building in order to actually variate it. So that's exactly what I've done. So I've get the initial style. So I got the initial style with this one building, and it really helped, especially with the angled one and the 45-degree one. So it's coming around to the side here, doing a bit more detail, and I thought it just looked really, really flat. So what I decided to do is raise up the wall a little bit, so get a couple extra blocks. You can see using that diorite again. It just mixes in perfectly. I love the new diorite block, I really, really do. Adding in a couple more details, but I also still thought, this looks really blank. Actually, let's put a little place where we can actually store some firewood. We're not going to really have that much in the village, but we're going to need to store some firewood. So what I decided to do with this is actually use the campfires again, use a couple bits of logs, but also use the campfires and use a splash water potion on them to actually get rid of it, because it just looks like a nice little pile of wood, and put a couple of barrels in there as well. Then if we just come around to the back, just adding in even more details, and I decided to go with a bay window at the back. This was just more of a style type thing, just to play around with the kind of like different styles, have different windows on each of the different sides, and it just kind of like shows off what you can do with a certain style, and I really quite like it. So this one I have, because it's right at the back in this kind of like back garden area that we've got, I did want to put in a little bit of mossy. And just adding in a couple of extra bits of details to the chimney. I've actually gone for this like polished andesite using the slabs and the main full polished andesite blocks on top of it. I actually really quite like the polished andesite. I'm really glad we got slabs for it as well. And then just putting in a small window right at the back there, just to kind of like finish off the build. But I'm pretty happy with the main building in this one. So yeah, if we get onto one of the, I'll actually get onto both of the other two as well. So now that we've got that kind of base style done, you can then start working on any sort of angled buildings, and it does make it about 1,000 million billion times easier. Also, if you're doing angled buildings, using the wall on the bottom and then filling it in actually helps like loads with the actual shape, because you can figure out the shape then without having to play around with it too much. Now, I did have a bit of trouble with this one because the actual fireplace chimney, of course, was at an angle, and I wanted to push it back a little bit. But I got there in the end, and I got kind of like a style that I was actually happy with. It is on an angle, which always does make it so much more difficult, because you have to like figure out what looks right and what fits with it, and you don't want to go too straight as well. So did have a couple blocks, and I went with 2 blocks, you know, and then 2 blocks slightly further back. But really happy with this one. So yeah, building on angles is something that's become really, really popular in Minecraft. It's something that I've been trying to expand on for quite a long time. It's really, really difficult to do, but once you do a couple of them, you do get the hang of it. I think it's one of these things that makes it look a lot more realistic, and it also breaks up Minecraft, which is a very rectangular, obviously, base game, or very square base game, completely breaks it up and makes it a lot easier. So yeah, start with your base with your kind of like rectangular or angled buildings, and then start adding the details in there, but always get that strong kind of base done. Now with the roof, what I do is basically just follow the same pattern, just with stairs, and then have a look at where I can edit the actual build to make it fit a little bit better. I think with this one I did a couple extra details, so I have got another little peak on there on the kind of entrance, so mixing that in was well, a little bit fun. But yeah, do kind of get the basics down first with any of your angled buildings, and then start to edit it. It'll make it a lot easier. If you try and do it all in one go, it becomes really difficult, really difficult to actually do. Now, for villages in general, you want to have some sort of purpose. I'm actually going to be expanding on this series as an entire series in order to add different bits, but my idea is that the main building has got someone who's important. Whoever's in charge of this village lives in that one. That's why he's got the bigger house. And then we're going to have 2 other people, which could be like the farmers. So it could be, you know, they actually kind of under a specific lord. Maybe not in this village, but they do belong to a certain lord, or the land does belong to a lord, shall I say. And then it's like the foreman, somebody that's in charge of just this village. Someone is like an elder of some kind, lives in that one. So we're going to have some farmers going on, and I'm going to build and expand on this entire series. My plan is to take this series, teach you all a load of really good building tricks, should I say, of how to expand your world, and basically be building a lot better in Minecraft, and just kind of like bringing some life to your world as well. There's going to be quite a few different tips and tricks, but if you guys do have anything that you want me to specifically go over, do let me know in the comments. So doing the angled kind of building here, the 45-degree angled, I did end up extending it on the side a little bit. And the other thing I did is with the chimney, I actually put this right on the edge. This was just a really kind of nice area to actually fit it in. So it meant I could just push it back on that kind of like frame there, and then have everything going on. It's actually easier to do it at 45 degrees than it was the slight angle. It always is, and it's just because it's easier for your eyes to actually figure out what you want to do. One of the things that I kept on messing around with this one was the door. If you ever done a 45-degree building, building a door is always a nightmare. And I actually remembered watching one of Vigorman's videos, who's a conquest builder, and he actually does his 45-degree angle kind of builds. He always puts on with the doors, you always have them like as I've done them, and actually pretends that they are open. It just makes it a lot easier. So just adding in extra bits of details to the 45-degree one. Again, these are kind of easier and not easier because you have to use a lot of slabs. You can't really use a lot of stairs with doing 45-degree roofs, so do focus on using your blocks and onto your slabs, and just end up, you know, moving them down will make it a lot easier. And I do go and tweak the roof. I wasn't too happy with how the peak actually looked. I'm never really happy, I'll be honest, with 45-degree kind of roofs, but you can just do the best that you can with the actual style to get it to look how it should. And I'll just playing around again with the chimney. Now if we come around to the front of these two, I wanted to do again some window styles, so I did a bay window kind of style at an angle. Actually, I didn't do a bay window at the start. I was going to do a bay window, but it just didn't work, and I had to use the full blocks. And that's the thing, whenever you do an angled, do use a lot of your full block glass, because you won't be able to really use the panes in the same way, but you can still do a lot of detail. So you can still do archways over the doors. And I always find that it looks better on the slight angle one rather than the 45-degree one. I always find the 45-degree angle, when you actually do like an archway over it, it always looks bigger, and it's because it's visually it actually is technically bigger, so you always get that. So putting in a nice big window for the 45-degree angled house, and just adding in a little bit more style around the sides here. And then just, yeah, keep on going around with the different bits of style, adding extra bits onto each of the chimneys, and messing around again with the roofs. The roofs are always something which, especially with 45-degree ones, I always end up playing around with a lot. But yeah, what you want to do with your villages, again, once you've already got everything set out, you'll start to build it like I've done in this video, and it makes it a lot easier. Put in extra bits of details, put in your trapdoors for your kind of like window shutters. If you've got a little like ledge or anything like that in front of the windows, do put in a flower pot and put in some flowers. I actually went with cornflower because it's one of the new ones. So as soon as I see any sort of new flower or anything like that added into Minecraft, I always end up using it. Now you can just see me putting in little bits of paths. So with paths, I'm going to be talking about this in another video, actually episode 2 of this series. I'm going to be talking about making custom roads in Minecraft. But basically what you do is you start with a base material, in this case coarse dirt, and then I used a variation block which was gravel, and I put in some soul sand, which I actually removed later on. Soul sand is one of those that I've kind of really like, but I don't know, sometimes the texture doesn't look right. It looks really good if you put it underneath, say, an upside down stair, so you only get that kind of half of the block. So I'm just building a well. This was the kind of centerpiece of the town. Everything seemed like it was, revolving around something. So I had to put something in as we've got the orange wall there. And I decided to go with a new well design. I'm actually really happy with this one. Using the grinder blocks or the grindstone blocks, not really grinder blocks. Using the grindstone blocks, and also putting in one of the bells as well. So we've got a village bell in there. I just thought it just looked really, really cool and nice. And I actually really like the design. So it's something I'm going to be tutorialing at a later date. Adding in small kind of cobblestone walls around each person's kind of house, just to kind of separate it out. I wanted it to feel like quite an open community where, everybody, well, obviously everybody knows each other. There's only 3 houses, but also it just gives them a little bit of a front garden as well, so they can tend to their own gardens. With the bigger house, obviously they've got an area that goes around to the back where they've got their wood stored, so they have a bigger kind of extra bit of a garden. And then just variating that, so because we've got all these really cool slabs and stairs now, it makes variation so much easier. Obviously we've got the mossy slab, moss stone slab, or mossy cobblestone slab, and also stone slabs and things like that we can now use finally, which makes it so much easier to do this kind of variation. And then I'm just kind of like detailing around the sides. One of the blocks that I found works really, really well with coarse dirt is actually brown concrete powder. This was something that I was looking around at all the different blocks in different colours, and actually brown concrete powder looks almost like a finer dirt. It's really strange. So coarse dirt looks like lots of big chunks in it and maybe some rocks in it as well, but actually the brown concrete powder looks like it's been more worn and everything like that. And actually even the new granite blocks looks kind of like a dried up dirt as well. You can actually use it and mix it in, which is something that's really, really cool. So I'm just putting in some extra flowers. This is just a detail around the build. This is something I always recommend doing, is put in your grass, your actual grass layers. Not so much your grass blocks, but yeah, your grass layers. Also put in some bushes, so use different types of leaves. The main rule with this would be to get a leaf that isn't in your natural environment around it. So there we go, you can see the 45-degree one. It's not the best, it's not the best in the village, but it is at an angle and it does look pretty good from afar. I did play around a little bit more with the roof, and I'm actually quite happy with how the roof turned out. I actually did put in some stairs as well. With the kind of like slightly angled one, I'm actually really happy with how this one turned out. It fits in the style really nicely. And again, the roof is looking pretty damn cool. I actually think it works. So I've actually used a bowed roof, so it's got the kind of like goes out at the sides. And then with the actual main building, this one, of course, I'm always happiest with the main building. Whenever it's built on a straight angle, you can do a lot more of it. So anyway, guys, that is it for this episode. Hopefully you've enjoyed. If you have, comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.